we we've sort of basically done. They're the sort of three bands I wanted to sort of bring up mainly, but I know that some of you guys will have some. You probably want to talk about a bit more. I know Karen has got maybe one or two. Go on, Karen. I think you and Dom might have a good conversation about this one as well. Give us one of your.
Well, I wouldn't be as impassioned as Karen, but I can relate being a fan. Yeah.
I haven't got anything to say on this one, by the way. I can't say anything, but I'll leave it to you. Go on, Karen.
I'm never going to be able to come on a show like this and not mention Marillion. I mean, the Fish versus H, and he's called H Steve Hogarth because there's two Steves in Marillion, obviously. It rages, it really rages. Still, even now, you know, people. I co-host a radio show as a very amateur in my spare time, and my co-host is a big Marillion fan. But she will only listen to the first four albums, which are the Fish albums, and you know, and calls Hogarth era Marillion new Marillion. He has been the singer in Marillion for 35 years. 35 years. And they have made 16 or 17 studio albums together. Fish made 4. That is not new Marillion. And I really feel so sorry for the people who've said, no, I'm not listening to Marillion. I don't listen to anything after Fish. And there are a lot of them because they have missed out on some absolutely incredible music. You know, my two favorite Marillion albums are both from the Hogarth era, Brave and Marbles. Their recent output has been phenomenal as well. You know, last album got to #2 in the British album charts, and yet you've still got people saying, no, can't listen to that because it's not Fish. Oh, I feel so sorry for them. You know, Steve Hogarth is an incredible singer. He's a great frontman, and he's an unbelievably good lyricist as well. And yeah, it's a very, very divisive issue still. I mean, I'm a huge Marillion fan, but I came to Marillion in the Fish era. I love those albums. But my favorite albums and I think they're making some of their best music in recent years, Marillion. Yeah, I think I've vented my spleen enough there.
I mean, it is a funny one, isn't it? Because, like you said, I always think that the people that miss out on the new, what are you doing? And you get frustrated because you think it's a bit. I know we've already mentioned Queensryche, but I think you people that love Queen, just listen to this. But I don't think it matters even if you made them listen. They would just no.
Or they'd hate it on principle, and it's just really sad. I mean, Fisher's I think he's permanently retired now. I think he's announced he's gone to be a proctor in the Outer Hebrides or something like that. But the Marillion fan collective now who still follow the band, you know, Steve Hogarth, he's adored. And that's the way it needs to stay.
35 years.
Shoot me now.
Well, Dom will be a bit disappointed that Fish ain't about him, because Fish he only loves Fish, don't you? From Marillion.
Well, no. I like Fish. I respect him. You know, I do think those albums created a whole kind of new prog movement or whatever. A lot of good bands came from that movement. I think the prog scene is probably healthier now than it's ever been. Maybe since I guess the 70s, but it's kind of moved on now. Now they call it neo-prog, and there's a lot more influences. It's not just doodly, you know, 12-minute Yes songs, you know what I mean? But yeah, I wasn't, you know, I followed their career. I've never been one for, you know, message boards and really, you know, seeing what people are saying about it. I just assumed all this time that people had accepted Hogarth and they can follow Fish's solo career, which is fine. You know, you get both best of both worlds, whatever. I didn't realize that there was still this divide, as you say, 35 years. It's incredible. 35 years. It's nuts. I do this little stupid thing on my Facebook where I do like a top 10 list of like my favorite singles of a band or whatever, you know. So I did a Marillion one last year. and the majority was going to be Hogarth, just because of the sheer, as you say, Fish is only on 4, Hogarth was on 17. So there's probably going to be more Hogarth than Fish songs on there. I think I had about 3 Fish songs, about 7. Most of my favorites were Hogarth, though. And I had people come in and say, "This list is ridiculous. I mean, Marillion is only Fish. I mean, I wouldn't even listen to anything that he's on." I'm just like, what? I didn't know there was such a divide still. It just is incredible. So silly, because Fish has had a very illustrious career on his own as well. I did meet somebody in a pub a couple weeks ago. We were talking about that, and he was very Fish only Marillion, but he has since followed Fish, which is fine. He chose his path. He won't listen to Hogarth, but he's a big devoted Fish fan still. Still go see them live and all this kind of stuff. So he's, I guess, made his peace with it, because he still can follow, the singer that he chooses. But yeah, God, get over it, people.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, there comes a point where you've really got to just get over it and move on.
I mean, Marbles, you mentioned Marbles, which is one of my favorite too. I mean, put Marbles on for somebody, and don't even tell them who it is.
Yeah.
See if they like it,
I do exactly the same. I had someone say a couple of years ago, I was going to see Marillion. I think it might have been, it's an old friend. He said, "What are you going to see them for?" And I said, "Right, okay, I'm going to send you something." And I sent him Ocean Cloud and said, "Listen to this. This is a brilliant song from Marbles." And I got a message back saying, "Okay, I see your point. Yeah, it's fantastic."
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's a winner. People don't even want to admit it sometimes, do they?
They don't.
Mean, you can even go, no, exactly. But I mean, no wonder. I don't think. So, Mark, you're not on Facebook, are you?
Yeah.
Don't blame you. Don't blame you. But
yeah, I don't blame you. Right.
So they actually have. You can join Facebook pages for instance, for example, Queensryche, and it'll cover the whole career of Queensryche. Then you can go to like Jeff Tate only Queensryche,
Yep.
But so it'd be good for you, because we can go on them, you can join them, and then you can post Toddler Torah videos, and you get chucked off quite quickly, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of Fish era Marillion pages as well.
There will be. Yeah.
Anyway, as you say, they're just missing out, and if they can't get it together and listen with an open mind, then too bad. Missing out on a lot of good music.
You two guys, any Marillion followers down
there? Don't know anything about them.
Yeah, I can't say that I followed him. I'm familiar with a couple songs, but I just on that point is, if somebody says they're a fan of only a few albums of the whole overall catalog, are they really a fan? It's like people saying I only like Bon Scott era AC/DC. Well, that was what, 4 years? 5, something like that, 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's been 40 some years after. Now I could see if maybe the long part of it, the replacement singer was only on a couple of live albums, and really it's kind of like Foreigner. We're gonna get into Foreigner here maybe, and whereas Kelly Hansen has been singer for much longer probably than Lou Gramm, but really almost all of the output, except for one album, was Lou Gramm, or 2 albums. I guess they did have a replacement singer in between there, but I mean, so that's one. I can see you saying, "Well, I only like Lou Gramm," because that's majority of their output, and
that's it.
The more popular stuff, and that everything else is just tours, which is fine. But but if the majority of the output of a band is with a singer, and you only like the singer before and it was just a little bit, then are you really can you call yourself a fan? I don't think you can.
Yes.
You can say you prefer one to the other, but to totally dismiss is another thing, isn't it? Some great points there on Marillion. It was quite interesting to hear, even though I've only heard imagine growing up in the 80s, I couldn't really avoid Marillion because of a couple of hits they had, and saw him on Top of the Pops. What was the one where he had the cards? Fish had the cards, and he was like,
Is that
Oh,
Haley or?
walking in a park or something. The
I can't remember which one that was.
It was around the time of Kaylee as well.
Yeah.
It was the other big hit, which I can't even remember.
Lavender blue.
Yes, that's
dilly blue,
it.
la-
Oh yeah, I like that. Okay. I know that Todd's got one that he wants to bring out. Is that right, Todd? You got one here to talk about?
Well, I thought that Styx was a pretty good example of this, where Dennis DeYoung's been gone for quite a while now.
Yep.
But this is a hard one even for me, though. You know, it's hard to have a solid stance on it, because I've, you know, growing up, Dennis DeYoung was Styx. I mean, yeah, sure. Tommy Shaw's songs were typically rocked harder, and there were some of my favorites are Tommy Shaw songs. But really, when you think of if I were to think of Styx in the 70s and 80s, you think of Dennis DeYoung. I mean, he was the face of Styx, and you know, some of their most iconic songs were sung by him and written by him. So I mean, it's hard for me to say no, he should never come back, because he, like I said, he was such a big part of it. But really, the way I understand the reason why they parted ways was they had two different directions that they wanted to go. Most of the band wanted to go more of a hard rock direction, whereas he wanted to go more theatrical and Broadway and kind of that kind of thing. And which is great. I mean, if he wants to do that, but he wanted to bring the rest of the band into it. And, you know, you hear that story where where were they at? They were at a big festival show, and there was the metal band before them, and then they come out and they're doing Mr. Roboto with the costumes on and stuff, and they just were laughed at, you know. And so I think the rest of the band was like, no, we don't want to do this. And so in that respect, I think that they made the right choice, unfortunately, for Dennis DeYoung, that they made the right choice in splitting. And to be honest with you, I think Lawrence Gowan has done an amazing job. I've seen him live. I've never seen him with Dennis, but I did see him a couple times with Lawrence Gowan playing and singing keyboards. And I think he does an amazing job. He's got a lot of charisma. And I think he fills that vacuum that was when Dennis left. You know, I think he fills it really well. And you still got the great Tommy Shaw songs, and their last few albums have been very, very good. I've enjoyed all the way back to Cycle Rama, I even liked, which was early 2000s, something like that. So yeah, I hate the fact that I'm saying this, that I don't think they need Dennis back. I would like to see maybe if they, you know, I don't think they would ever get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but if they did, you know, I would like to see the whole group back and performing together. I know there's been some other bands, they've, you know, even with KK coming back with Judas Priest, I think that was a great classy move that everybody did that. And so I guess I don't know what my overall point is, but my point is that Dennis is gone, he's not coming back, and I don't think they need him back. But I feel bad that he's not back, because I think it was kind of his baby, the whole thing, and they threw him out. But it was for the best, I think, for both.
Great one, mate. I haven't got a lot to say on Styx. I've actually seen them live, though, I've got to say. I saw them with Foreigner and Journey a few years ago, but don't know enough of their songs. I think they were bigger, in my opinion, what I can remember, a lot bigger in America than they ever were over here in England. Yeah. So let's go, Mark. You got anything on Styx?
First of all, I was just thinking it's too bad Delena's not here, because she could talk a day on Styx.
Oh man, yeah.
She could have a real heated conversation about that. I just made a list. Some of these are ones that I hear other people clamoring for to come back. Others are just ones that maybe I would like to see. I'll just go through them real quickly. I'm surprised this one wasn't brought up, except Udo. You know, if Ralph was here, I know he would have an opinion. He's a big Accept fan. I'm perfectly.
Oh, and I'm
happy.
not.
Well, I know you are too, but yeah, Ralph lives and breathes.
Well, that's true. German metal. Yeah.
But I'm perfectly happy with Tornillo and Accept. So I don't know if we got any Great White fan. Go ahead.
And I'm happy with Udo and his band.
Yeah.
So that's both worlds.
Yeah. I don't know if we got any Great White fans here, but I constantly see people still wanting Jack Russell to come back to Great White. I don't mean to be cruel or rude, but if you've seen any recent videos of Jack Russell, he really needs to be in an assisted living. And that's not, again, I'm not trying to be cruel.
It's been that way for years too.
He can barely walk. He looks like he's almost an invalid. I don't think he can turn his head. A lot of the shows I've seen, he's sitting in a chair. He sounds like a tortured cat when he's singing. It's really sad. It's another case of, I guess that's the only way he can support himself.
Yeah.
And he's got a good band behind him, but I mean, it's just time. The new kid, the Great White, the other Great White, has got with him right now, Brett Carlisle. He's an amazing singer. I think he's possibly the guy to go forward in the future if they're going to carry on. And I assume they'll do an album with him. I think he's definitely the guy for them at this point, and just let Jack do whatever he's going to do for as long as he can. But there's no way he could return to Great White. I'd like to see Carlos Cavazo come back to Quiet Riot. Quiet Riot, they're basically a cover band now as it is anyway. Rudy did come back. Prior to Rudy coming back, they didn't have any original or even classic members. So Rudy came back after Frankie died, and at least, gave a little bit of credibility to the lineup. But would like to see Carlos come back, so it'd be two classic members. This is one that I used to wish for, but at this point it doesn't matter because they're supposedly retiring. I always want to see John Sykes come back to Whitesnake. Maybe for a final show or something, they could do something there. Todd mentioned
he's too busy working on his album for the last 30 years.
Yeah. If he ever gets it out, it's going to be a banger. Todd mentioned Foreigner. Well, they're supposedly retiring. So if they do retire, I would love to see Kelly Hansen go back to Hurricane. Hurricane released an album with a different singer, and it wasn't anything to write home about, but I would like to see him go back to Hurricane. You hear a lot of people wanting Chris Holmes to come back to Wasp. At this stage of the game, again, I don't really care. I think Doug Blair's been there long enough to have earned his spot in the band. And I don't know how much longer Wasp can carry on either, because Blackie's performing right now sitting in a chair or a stool himself. And
lip syncing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Most of what he's doing is lip syncing anyway. So at this point, it doesn't really matter. Another one that doesn't matter at this point, I always wanted to see Jakey Lee do something else with Ozzy again. Maybe a one-off song if Ozzy's got it in him. But George Lynch returning to Dokken again. They're on their last legs anyway, and John Levin has earned his place in that band. So other than some special appearances, don't really need that to happen. And then another one that's very recent in the news, and I know it's one of Lee's all-time favorite bands, Vixen. they just hired another new singer. But when Lorraine Lewis left recently, there was a lot of talk that Janet Gardner was going to come back, and that didn't happen. They hired another woman that I'd never even heard of. Kind of unusual to see, or kind of odd to see Vixen with a dark-haired singer. But that's the ones I had written down.
I didn't, we always sort of think about like these singers mainly, don't we? But there's plenty of other guitarists and drummers and stuff like that, that people think could make a massive difference. Have you got anyone, Don? You want any special ones?
Well, I just want to add when we talking about Styx, that is a rare occurrence where they actually did come back and have a full reunion and a very successful tour and made an album. This was in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah. Brand New Day, I think it was called.
So it's even more mysterious that they couldn't keep that together 15 years later, because I kind of understand the whole Kilroy was here separation, because that was over the top, but why they couldn't make it last past the very successful reunion tour and album, why they couldn't make it last after that is the bigger mystery to me then. Because he came back, he still had the voice, they were still firing all cylinders. The future was bright. And
I think sometimes what happens, and I don't know if I obviously don't have insight into that, but for Styx necessarily, and I think sometimes what happens is you get back together and it works and it's great, and then sometimes over time as you tour, the old differences kind of creep back up again.
Of course,
Daily Roth coming back. Well, you can only deal with him for so long, and then you got to go with you got to do something else. So yeah, I think that it probably had something to do with the old differences kind of bubbling back to the surface again, and then
going with an ex. You might have
it's like remarrying your second wife. Like at first it's great. Why did we ever break up? This is amazing. Yeah. Well, my only addition to this is all of the points that we've made, especially Styx, when you said you first get back, it's great, and then it's not. This one, I get so sick and tired of hearing about Kiss. Ace and Peter, is the only blah, blah, blah. Now, my opinion, Kiss was my favorite band when I was 8 years old, and for years and years and years after that, followed them all through the non-makeup years. Very happy. Thought Revenge was just a great return to form. I was so excited for the future, building on Revenge. And then they got back together, put the makeup back on, got Ace and Peter back in the band. Neither one could play to the level, especially that Eric Carr and Bruce Kulick were playing at. B, they became a heritage band. I really loved Kiss because every 2 or 3 years there was a new album, new tour, heard new songs live, always evolving. That's another thing that I love about the career is I loved the albums like Unmasked and Elder and Creatures because they were all different and they were all different aspects of rock music, and that's great. So when they got back together, in their last 30 years, they only did 3 albums. 3 albums. They became an oldies band. Nobody cared about hearing new music from Kiss because they just went for the spectacle. And what they were always accused of in their formative years of being all about the show and not about the music, that actually came true. And being a big fan, people, and then of course, the worst thing happened is that they brought new kids in with the old makeup. I just, in my wildest dreams, if anyone had told me 30 years ago, 20 years ago, well, I guess that they've probably been together for 20 years now, that long ago, that they would actually put 2 other people. And I said, that would never, ever happen. They would never do that. Can you imagine having other people in their costumes? That's just incredible. And then it happened. and it went on for years and years and years. And people
and
are so used
that-
to it now they don't even really think about it. But that's just, and I'm not one of those, you know, it's the four only. I just think that not to have the other two, you know, they should have made new costumes or new identities for the other two, like they did with Vinny and Eric. But oh, it just ended up so terrible. Like I always say, the first 20 years were amazing. The last 30 have been just an embarrassment. So
in a couple of years' time, though, in a couple of years' time, when you pay 300 quid for your
avatars
experience, do you think they're going to have? Will it be the original Kiss, or will it? What's it going to be? Is it going to be all of them?
They're just gonna have the old. Yeah, they'll just play the old tunes, and they'll be flying around the theater and stuff, and in 3D or whatever it will be, and you know they'll actually be comic book heroes come to life. That's what I hear. You know that they'll play, but they'll also have, like, you know, superhuman powers and stuff. You know, have like shoot lasers across the theater or whatever. You know, the things they couldn't do as actual physical people. Yeah, the whole situation. But I still see every day Ace and Pete. You should get back with Ace and Peter one more time. God, Peter Criss couldn't play in '96. It was embarrassing. I saw one where he just completely lost the song, and they're
Well, that's the good thing about now. You don't have to play anymore, do you? Apparently, so that's the good thing.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, at least he was playing live because he fucked it up. But yeah, it just wasn't good when they came back. You know, I'm glad people got a nostalgia trip, but it just lasted for 30 years, and they became a band that was just playing oldies all the time. Anyway, that's my only rant. Thank you.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much. Have you got any rants, Karen?
Yeah, I was going to mention Kiss as well. I saw them on that tour. I think it was the last ever Monsters of Rock. I'm sure they headlined that, didn't they? I was in the field. Yeah, it was, from a nostalgia point of view, it was great, but the legacy of that wasn't necessarily a good one. So there's a lesson in how bringing back former members isn't always a good thing.
Yeah.
I had Richie Sambora on the list. I can't speak with any authority about this really, because I haven't really followed Bon Jovi since New Jersey, so I'm going to let somebody more qualified
leave
than
it
me.
there. That's the best. That's the best place to leave it on.
Foreigner, yep. I love Lou Graham's voice. I think he's a phenomenal singer. But didn't he have some significant health issues as well, and yeah, I'm not sure how realistic that would be. And my other big one was Richie Blackmore and Deep Purple. They'll never happen. He said that will never ever happen. He's happy making his kind of folk rock music that he makes now in Blackmore's Night. But can you imagine if ever that were to be something that was ever on the cards? Could you imagine trying to get a ticket for that tour? No, I have to admit, if ever it did happen, I'd probably be in there like a rat up a drain pipe. I'd have no illusions that it would be, you know, it would be anything like the heyday, but you know, so Steve Morse was great. I think Steve Morse really earned his stripes in Deep Purple. I think he made something like 8 albums with him. He's a real virtuoso musician, isn't he? But you know, he's left now as well. So, and they've got Simon McBride playing guitar now. But yeah, that's just one that I wanted to mention. A lot of people say still that you know, despite Steve Morse having been in the band for so long, that they're not really Deep Purple without Richie Blackmore, and that the one album they made in the 70s without Richie Blackmore, is it Come Taste the Band? It's not a proper Deep Purple album. I love that album, by the way.
Me too.
Yeah, it's just that really lovely funky edge to it that
Great, yeah.
Glenn Hughes and Tommy Bolin brought. But yeah, I have to say, you know, if Blackmore was ever going to return to Deep Purple, which won't happen, I'd probably be up for that. Just, yeah, for nostalgia value. But yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Karen. Just going back to talk quickly, you had Sticks, mate. You got any others?
Not necessarily. I'm a big Night Ranger fan, and it'd be nice to see Jeff Watson come back and play with him. He still plays and stuff, but nobody else cares really about them. But I've enjoyed their music since then. And I did want to make a quick note about Autograph, if you remember them. There's been a whole lot of
Steve Plunkett.
Steve Plunkett's doing a solo album, and why wouldn't he come back? But the band that calls himself Autograph, or did, had to cease doing it because nobody in the band was an original member, and Steve Lynch, the original guitarist, managed to get him in the courts. To now they have to call themselves Autograph Beyond is the new band. But Steve Lynch doesn't have, as far as I know, doesn't have any plans to do anything with the name. It's just that he said they can't use it. But yeah, it would be cool to see Steve Lynch and Steve Plunkett get back together and do something. But aside from that, nothing else I can think of.
Thanks, mate. That's another good idea for a show, actually. Because you get bands that get obviously new members come in. You mentioned Autograph there. Almost like people think Queensryche shouldn't go on anymore because there's only Michael Wilton and the bass player, is it
Eddie Jackson.
Eddie Jackson. They shouldn't. But I mean, how long is it you can be in a band where you are the proper member? Some of these people have been in bands for 30 years and they still say they're not the original member. But all right, they're not the original, but they are part of that band, aren't they? After that many years, So,
Well,
the original lineup, and then there's the classic lineup.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, the biggest example of that, Lee, is your beloved Leonard Skinner.
Oh yeah,
They've gone back and forth in the courts because there used to be a contract, I think, that said they had to have at least one original member, and then that last one finally and they had to go back in and redo it.
And we've mentioned Foreigner a couple of times. They brought out what's the guitarist's name again, guys? Sorry,
Mick Jones.
Mick Jones, wheeled him out for like one song a concert or something, just to make it the original band. But there's loads of grief about that as well. I'm just going to touch on a little bit what Karen said about Richie Sambora, because I think the most grief I've ever got from doing a reaction is probably from the Bon Jovi and the Richie Sambora reactions.
No way.
Yeah.
People are defending John Bon Jovi.
Oh yeah.
For sounding like that.
More Richie Sambora. That if you've heard his songs lately, so because it's like bringing back to Bon Jovi. Now, I sort of saying, have you heard these songs? But apparently Richie Sambora, I haven't really followed his solo stuff much, and he's quite rocks out usually on his solo stuff. I don't know if that, or it's different than Bon Jovi. So I don't think that would. What could you do with Bon Jovi now? John Bon Jovi's voice. You can't really do anything with that, can you?
And not just his voice, but he doesn't want to go back. He doesn't want to be the John Bon Jovi he was. No. So even if Sambora came back, they're not going to write another, Born to Be My Baby or whatever. It's just not going to happen.
So I just think that I did get, I was thinking about doing a show just to show you some of the comments I had. Some of these people are just horrible out there. They can't even handle you saying. Have you heard some of those Richie? Have you heard the Richie Sambora song, like the last few? Oh
no.
But people will still say, "Oh, bad, fucking awful." They are. They're really bad.
Really? Worse than Bon Jovi?
Just as bad, probably worse. Yeah, probably worse.
All right, so they're both terrible.
Yeah, they're both awful. Yeah, but people just.
Imagine the comments below this video.
Well, the only thing that opens the door, I think, for Richie to come back is just because they haven't been utilizing Phil X really very much.
Oh, I know.
He's on the album, but he didn't write any of the songs.
Yeah,
it's this John Shanks guy that helped write a lot of the songs, and he's now in the band. But so what is Phil doing?
Is he in the band now?
Yeah, he's listed in the band now, but so I don't know why Phil is, what that whole dynamic is, but they'd hardly talk to about Phil in that documentary I watched about Bon Jovi. It wasn't, so.
I think a lot of people were, giving Bon Jovi, that documentary seems to have done John Bon Jovi himself a lot of favors, because I haven't watched it yet, but a lot of people are saying, there's a lot more understanding for beg your pardon, how shit he is because of that documentary. Yeah, I don't know, because it's obviously had health problems and stuff like that. But like I always said, that doesn't excuse you writing a shit song, does it?
Yeah.
No. I mean, again, go back to Steve Perry. He realizes he couldn't cut it anymore. He didn't keep making crappy acoustic albums for the last 30 years. You know what I mean? John Bon Jovi seems to be very happy doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
I think that he thinks that the songs that he's putting out now are probably some of the best of his career.
Yeah, but they will be when you've got these fans saying that you are the most wonderful fucking person I've ever known in my life. You just get blind to it, I suppose. I don't know. Fucking weird.
I like 7800 Fahrenheit, so who knows when.
Oh, I love that album. That's the best album. Easily.
And that's the one that he won't have anything to do with, so
I know.
who are we? I don't know.
Love that album. Absolutely love it. The other day I came on, I was with my wife driving back from Kent, she put a bit of Bon Jovi on. And it was so almost sad to hear how good they were, in that 80s period. Just amazing, really. They wrote some of the best choruses, and a lot of people followed them. But there you go. It is what it is. Thanks, guys, for that little rant. Are you up for another rant at some other point? I take it.
Definitely.
Yeah, we find something to rant about.
Yeah,
You've got my number.
Yeah. No, it's been a great pleasure, guys. I love having a bit of a moan sometimes, as you know. So it's great having you all on.
All of our opinions, of course. Don't take any of this personally.
I was going to read the comments on this one.
Yeah, don't yell and scream at it. Well, I mean, you can if you want.
And remember, guys, it's just our opinion. It doesn't make it the right opinion. It's just our opinions. Okay? Even though it's right. Guys, thank you very much for coming on. Love you all. I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
See you later.